You've been doing this for 10, 15, maybe 20 years. You know how to sell. You know how to read a room. You've closed deals that would make most people's heads spin. But lately something is off. You just started this new role. The stakes are higher. The brand is different. The pressure is real. And suddenly the version of you that used to show up effortlessly, the high performer who always knew what to say, is nowhere to be found. You're in a meeting. A prospect throws a curveball. In your head, you know the answer. You've answered this 1,000 times before. But there's a lag, a latency. By the time your brain finds the right response, the moment has passed. You're not losing your edge. You're experiencing what I refer to as a hardware crash. Today, we aren't talking about sales scripts or grinding harder. We're talking about why your brain is locking you out of your own expertise and exactly how to get the keys back. Before we go any further, I need to be very clear about what this is and what it isn't. If you are looking for the secret or a way to manifest your desired outcome by changing your vibration, this is not for you. I don't deal in mysticism. I don't believe the universe cares about your sales results. I deal in principles, specifically applied neuroplasticity. Most people in your position are looking for a hack, a quick mindset shift. But here's the truth. A hack is a short-term surface fix. It's no match for the trillions of neural connections in your brain that are currently prioritized for one thing: survival through homeostasis. Your brain wants to keep you exactly where you are, even if where you are is frustrated and underperforming. It was designed to be a survival mechanism. To change that, you don't need a vibe shift. You need to do the difficult inner work of reprogramming the path between a given stimulus and your response. If you're looking for the easy way out, you can close this window now. But if you are ready to look at the mechanics of why you're stuck, let's begin. And why can't you access what you know? In my work, we call this the knowing-doing gap. You have the knowing, it's your decades of experience and your talent. But when you change roles and the pressure spikes, your physiology shifts. As the pressure increases, your performance should increase. That's the zone. But there's a tipping point. Once you cross it, your brain enters a state of collapse. In collapse, your knowing is still there, but you've lost access. The network of neurons is moving at 600 milliseconds, much faster than you can think. And it's defaulting to old protective associations. To fix the hardware, you first have to identify your current operating state. I refer to the model as the 5 levels of personal leadership. This isn't about your title. It's about your level of access to your own capabilities under fire. When the new job starts and the allostatic load, the cumulative wear and tear, begins to mount, most people spend their time in the middle level, stabilized. You're getting the work done, but it feels heavy. You're surviving the day, but you aren't leading the sales process anymore. You're just keeping pace, holding on to the status quo. Then comes the moment that matters, a high-stakes meeting or a lost shore sale, and you drop to destabilized. This is where the knowing-doing gap opens wide. You feel that latency or lag. You become self-conscious, worried about perception, and your focus shifts from the prospect's needs to your own survival. If the pressure continues, you hit the bottom, collapse. Now this can be a phobic type response. Your brain decides this environment is a threat. You aren't selling anymore. You are simply trying to get out of the room. Internally, the processor has overheated and shut down. The reason you're here is probably that you want to move back upstream to where you belong. You want to return to agency. This is in the flow. You're solving problems before they happen. You're creative. You're connected. And your knowing and doing are perfectly aligned. Agency is your high-performance normal. It is a state you can maintain 24/7 because it's your high-performance baseline. But for those who want the highest leverage, we look for long stints at the top level, expansion. This is the state where you have 100% authority over your internal response, regardless of the stimulus. In expansion, you aren't just maintaining your baseline. You are building stability on an upward trajectory, like a thru hiker who can cover 30 miles a day with ease toward the end of a hike that may have started with a daily high of under 10 miles. This is allostasis in action, recalibrating your system to a higher level of capacity. recalibrating your system to a higher level of capacity than you ever had before. To fix this, we have to look at the clock. Most people think they actually think about what they say. They don't. Between a prospect saying your price is too high, the stimulus, and you opening your mouth, the response, there's a window of about 1 second. The first 600 milliseconds of that second belong to your biology. Before your conscious mind even knows there's a problem, your neurons have already detected the threat, appraised it, formed a reaction, and handed it off to your conscious mind. By the time you feel defensive, the reaction has already happened. I break this down into 3 zones. Zone 1 is pre-stimulus. This is your baseline. If you enter a meeting destabilized, you've already lost. Zone 2, the handoff, the 600 milliseconds where your brain maps the stimulus to an old fear or an old habit. And then Zone 3, the response. This is where you actually speak. If you want to change your results, you cannot wait until Zone 3. It's too late. The trajectory is too strong. You have to move your action upstream. You have to change how the hardware handles the stimulus in those first 600 milliseconds. This is what we call agency, the ability to choose a response rather than being a victim of a reaction. If you're going to fix the hardware, you first have to identify the current operating state. In my work, we use a model called the 5 levels of personal leadership. This isn't about your title on a business card, it's about your level of access to your own capabilities under pressure. Most of you watching this have spent the majority of your career in level 4, agency. This is when you're in the flow. You're solving problems before they happen. You're creative, you're connected, and you're knowing and doing perfectly aligned. But then you change jobs. The environment shifted. The allostatic load, the cumulative wear and tear on your body and brain increased. And you slipped. You likely dropped into level 3, stabilized. You're getting the work done, but it feels heavy. You're surviving the day, but you aren't leading the sales process anymore. You're just keeping pace. Then comes the moment that matters. A high-stakes meeting, a missed forecast, and you hit level 2, destabilized. This is where the knowing-doing gap opens up. You start to feel the latency I mentioned earlier. This is where the knowing-doing gap opens up. You start to feel the latency I mentioned earlier. You're self-conscious. You're worried about how you're being perceived. Your focus has shifted from the prospect's needs to your own survival. If the pressure continues, you hit level 1, collapse. This is the phobic type response. Your brain has decided that this environment is a threat. You aren't selling anymore. You're simply trying to get out of the room. This might look professional on the outside. You might look professional on the outside, but internally, the processor is overheated and shut down. The reason you're here today is probably that you're tired of living between level 2 and level 1. You want to move back upstream to agency and expansion. This is the state where you have 100% authority over your internal response, regardless of the external stimulus. You want to move back upstream to agency and expansion. These are the states where you have 100% authority over your internal response, regardless of the external stimulus, and you're building stability on an upward trajectory instead of along the lines of status quo. To get back to agency, we have to master the 1-second model. Think about the last time a prospect told you, we've decided to go with a competitor. In that exact moment, a stimulus enters your system. In zone 1, the pre-stimulus, what was your state? Were you already destabilized? If you were, your brain was already primed to see that news as a catastrophe. Your baseline was skewed. Then we hit zone 2, the handoff. This is the 600 millisecond window. Your network of neurons performs a rapid appraisal. It scans your history, your fears, and your current stress levels. It maps this rejection to every other rejection you've ever had. It triggers a reaction formation. This happens before you're even consciously aware the prospect has finished their sentence. By the time you reach zone 3, the response, your body is already flooded with cortisol. Your chest is tight. Your reaction is handed off to your conscious mind as a feeling. And because you don't have a framework to interrupt this, you speak from that feeling. You get defensive, you get quiet, or you over-explain. That's the hardware failure I was referring to. The work that I do and the work we are discussing today is about intervening in zone 2. It's about using applied neuroplasticity to reprogram that rapid appraisal, so that the handoff to your conscious mind isn't a reaction, but a clean signal that allows for and enables a real response. If you can control the first 600 milliseconds, you own the meeting. If you can't, the meeting owns you. I developed the 7-step reset to give high performers a literal track to run on when they feel that latency start to kick in. We don't have time to go through the full technical training today, but I want to give you the 3 high leverage intervention points that you can use immediately. Step 1 and 2 is the orientation. This happens in zone 1. It's about situational awareness. Most salespeople are so focused on their pitch, the software, that they lose orientation of their state, the hardware. Step 3 is the handoff management. This is the most difficult inner work. It involves identifying the weak links in your neural associations. Why does this specific objection trigger that specific collapse? We have to disturb those old pathways and create new ones. This is where we apply cognitive dissonance and reframing at a neurological level, not just a psychological one. Step 7 is the return to presence. After the response is given, most people stay in the reaction. They carry the stress of the last meeting into the next one. This is how allostatic load builds up. Step 7 is about consolidation, closing the loop so you enter the next 1-second cycle from a state of expansion, not lingering destabilization. If we're going to fix the hardware, we have to look at where the power comes from. Most people in a sales slump focus on the financial area, the lagging indicator. They look at the quota, maybe the commission check, and they try to fix the problem there by working more hours. But as I said, we have to move upstream. In my work, we focus on 7 performance areas arranged in a specific hierarchy. We follow a be, do, have alignment. If you want to have the financial result, you have to do the right actions. But those actions are dictated by who you are being at a neurological level. It starts with the mental and physical. Your mental is your conscious mind, but your physical includes your physiology and your network of neurons. If your physical state is one of high allostatic load, meaning your body's stuck in a chronic state of stress, your mental capacity is physically throttled. You cannot think your way out of a physiological lockout. Next is the spiritual and emotional areas. When I say spiritual, I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about the higher self-awareness needed for reprogramming, the ability to observe your own neurons in action. This is your observer effect. The emotional area is the last gate fully in your control. It's the gateway to your relationships and your professional life. If you're easily hijacked emotionally, your professional life becomes a series of reactions rather than a strategic pursuit. We run laps around these first 4 areas, mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional, to reprogram the weak links. Think of it as a circuit. If you have a weak link in your emotional regulation, it doesn't matter how good your sales script is. When the stimulus hits that link, the circuit breaks. You drop from expansion to collapse. My role is to help you identify the specific weak link in those first 4 areas. Leverage applied neuroplasticity to strengthen it, and then move to the next layer. This is how we move from surviving a new role to dominating it. So if performance is driven by patterns, and those patterns are formed through repeated stimulus, reaction, response cycles, then the question becomes, how do you intervene? That's what the 7-step reset is designed to do. Every day you go through tens of thousands of these cycles. Most happen automatically, unconsciously. The 7-step reset isn't about thinking your way through every situation. It's about bringing awareness into selected cycles to shift the underlying pathways. It focuses on 3 things. First, detecting the moment earlier in that first 600 millisecond window. Second, interrupting the automatic reaction with the same speed the system is currently using. And third, constructing a more effective conditioned reaction that leads to a response you actually choose. Then we return to a neutral state so that the next cycle isn't influenced by the stress of the last one. This is how you change what happens automatically. At this point, you likely fall into one of 2 camps. The first camp is still looking for a shortcut, a tip, to get through the next week. If that's you, I invite you to follow my content, but as we've discussed, the hardware rarely leads to surface fixes. The second camp is the person who has tried everything else. You've read the books, you've used the hacks, and you're frustrated because you know you're capable of more, yet you can't access it when it matters. You're ready to do the difficult inner work. The issue we are facing is not a lack of insight. It's a matter of conditioning. And conditioning does not change through a single aha moment. It changes through structured repetition. That's where most people fail when they try to solve this on their own. The system you're trying to change is the same system evaluating whether the change is working. So it defaults back to what is familiar. To break that loop, you need a structured environment. I'm offering two paths to do that. The first path is the workshop. This is a live, practical session where we walk through the 7-step reset, step by step. You aren't just hearing the theory, you're applying it in real time. This is where you gain a reference point for what it feels like to operate with access consistently. Once you experience that difference, you have a foundation you can build on. If you prefer to look at this in the specific context of your role and where your performance is breaking down, I do a small number of one-on-one diagnostic calls. This isn't a sales pitch. It's a high-level fact-finding into your specific 1-second cycles. We find exactly where the handoff is failing you. You'll leave with a clear hypothesis of where your hardware is crashing and what the upstream intervention looks like. The reality is your brain doesn't care about your job title or your goals. It cares about stability. If you don't take the time to deliberately reprogram the pathways driving your reactions, your brain will continue to prioritize homeostasis at status quo. You'll stay in the same loop, feeling the same latency. Principles are indifferent. They work whether you believe in them or not. You can continue to fight against your biology, or you can start to work with it. Choose the path that fits your current needs using the links below. I'm Mo Maduro. This is about agency and expansion. Let's get to work.